Alrighty, here you are on your video for your lesson 16 entrance slips. So I'm pretty much just going to go through every problem and show you how I answered it so that way you can check them and see if my explanation helps with any confusion. So before we get started, I do want to make sure we put the formulas at the top, plus the more you write the formulas, the easier it is for you to remember them. So we're just talking about circumference in this one. So C equals, it's either 2 pi r, or you could have C equals pi d. So it kind of just depends on what type of problem you're doing. So number one, it says Brianna's parents built a swimming pool in the backyard. Brianna says that the distance around the pool is 120 feet. Is she correct? Why or why not? So remember, distance, again, that is circumference. So it's kind of like we're talking about the outer edges. So in the picture, hopefully you went in and you realized, well, okay, I've got this rectangle down at the bottom, and then I have this semicircle up at the top. And the way you can guarantee that this is the rectangle is because they said, well, from here to here is 40, which means this would also be 40, and this would also be 20. Okay? So now in the circle, we know that the diameter is 20 going across. So we're going to take care of the circumference of the semicircle. We're going to do C equals pi d, where we plug in, so we keep our pi, and we're going to plug in 20 for the diameter. Now, if the question's not specific about what type of pi to use, I would just use the pi button on your calculator. So when you type in pi times 20, and you can just round to the nearest hundredth or something near there, you would get 31.42. And actually, I skipped a step, and you don't get that, so I'm going to erase that. When you, oh no, it's not going to let me erase today. There we go. So actually, you get, I knew that didn't look right, you would get 62.83. Okay, now that would be for an entire circle. We have a semicircle, so we have to divide this in half. So when you divide by 2 and then you go to round, that's when you would get the 31.42. Okay, so that counts for this orange part of the semicircle. That is 31.42. So now to find the total distance around the pool, we would have to add, we have our 31.42, that's our swimming pool number. And then we have the rectangular part of the swimming pool, which would just be the 40 plus the 20 plus the 40 on the other side. Now we're not going to count the other 20 because that's in the middle of the pool. So that wouldn't count as being the outside of the pool. When you add all of those up, you would get 131.42 feet. So is she correct? No, she isn't correct. Okay, I would say she probably made a mistake in the way she calculated the circumference of the actual circular part. But no, she is not correct. All right, so now number 2 here, explain how Brianna would determine the distance around the pool so that her parents would know how many feet of stone to buy for the edging. It's pretty much what we did up above. So if you wrote something, that's okay, but I'm really not too worried about number 2. Right, now in the last one here, explain the relationship between the circumference of the semicircular part of the pool and the width of the pool. So again, kind of a theoretical question, but it's something we can talk about. So we have this semicircle, which we know the diameter is 20, which means that the radius, so like halfway, would be 10. So when we found the circumference of this semicircle, we ended up getting 31.42. Okay, so now if you they want to know, well, how does it relate to the width of the pool? If I redraw my semicircle over here and say like I put a rectangle around it. So we know that this bottom part, that's not a good color. We know the bottom part here was 20, which means if I kind of did the same thing on the top. Well, this would be 20. And then we knew that the inside, the height, this was 10. Okay, so if I wanted to find the distance around this, the perimeter, I would do 20 plus 20 plus 10 plus 10, and that would give me 60. So now you have to think, well, 60, and this is 31.42, so like how is that only half the distance? Well, remember these curved areas over here, that's it takes off more space than you think it would. So again, kind of theoretical, not a huge deal if you didn't understand it. The important one is number 1. So if you have questions about number 1, feel free to send me an email with the problem, how you tried it. But that's all we're going to do in this video.